Hey, folks. Welcome back to another episode of the Non-Essential Workers Podcast, a left-wing podcast where we take a look at the news going on today and make ourselves sad. I'm Alex.
I'm Aiden.
I'm Jason.
And hopefully this time we break that trend, because I got quite a wide range of odd and unusual ones, and also some bangers.
Sample bladder.
Yeah, so I've done my traditional organizational structure to give us kind of a charting a course. And I think we'll start with big thinkers, one of my favorite sections.
I can only assume this is the most genuine of titled segments.
Let's start off with a look at what it means to be successful in the American economy. From CNBC, the first black woman CEO in the Fortune 500 on work-life balance. Quote, you don't have to go to all your kids' games.
Oof. Is this the same woman who we quoted a number of episodes back?
Well, there's only like 3 black women in the Fortune 500, so there's a high chance.
We did an episode about some Fortune 500 black woman CEO.
Could well be.
Just made that thumbnail a couple weeks ago. Yeah. I mean, she's not wrong. I will say, there's no law that requires you to go to every one of your child's games, but it is kind of like being pretty explicit with the priorities and the language, isn't it? It's like, well, first of all, to be a CEO of a Fortune 500 company, you can absolutely make.
You can go to all your kids' games.
All your kids' games. You're just
you don't do anything.
Choosing to network instead.
You also don't have to have kids. Like, as truth statements go, right? Like, you can make a bunch of truth statements, but like, I feel like if you're gonna have kids, you should take them serious. Like, you should make them feel like they're loved and you're doing things with them.
No, that's because the way they turned into a cold-hearted CEO is by not having that from their parents.
I mean, that seems reasonable.
This to me totally begs the question, which is, of course you don't have to, because it's your life. Because to be CEO, you have to think you're the main hero and the main character in your own goddamn Skyrim, not your fucking kids. The kids are NPCs who don't have stats yet, and they stay at the house or go do hockey. You don't care.
You just use them to carry your extra gear,
right? Like they're just mules. To these kinds of people, ego and identity, like their individual identity, is the only thing that matters. What have I done? Here's what I get. Here's how I benefit. They don't think about other people fundamentally. That's why they're a CEO. All that matters is the mega structures they're in charge of and the wealth they can extract for the benefit of themselves. They don't consider like the altruism of doing good for other people. Maybe that's extreme, but I think that's also honest.
It's just really bleak. If you ever listen to like a Cat Stevens, Cat's in the cradle in the silver spoon, like if you listen to that kind of music, that'll remind you that like life is fleeting and relationships between your nuclear family and your immediate friends and whatnot are pretty valuable. Having someone who's like, hey, you know how you succeed in the American economy? Fuck that.
Fuck them kids.
It just struck me as very like bleak in a way that they don't seem to even recognize.
Don't worry, your kids won't remember that you didn't go to all their baseball games. You were close down a big ass merger. That's all that matters.
You don't have to raise your kids. I don't know. It's just like, because, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of like heat in the kind of like neoliberal circles about trying to wed capitalism to feminism. And a lot of it comes down to like, look, women should be able to live a full life and do all the different things they want. It's like, yeah, that's true. But if the solution is that you basically abandon an entire wing of those things in order to achieve the other, you didn't really find the balance, did you? It's just saying prioritize work. It's not actually solving that riddle of how you both be a parent and a full-time worker. Which is, as we've already pointed out, much harder even for the non-CEOs than the CEO.
Her solution is choose business over family. That's her answer to the work-life balance question.
Yeah, it's just don't do it.
Yeah, which is fine if you're like a struggling working class person. That's your only option. But yeah, this is just about making whatever company she works for the biggest it can be past the exorbitant amount of profit it's already making, which is just like, it's really kind of, I think, painful and unsurprising, but disheartening to hear this kind of thing from someone who could absolutely make every game but chooses not to, versus someone who probably really wants to but can't because he'd rather have his kids have food on the table.
Yeah.
It's like such a it's kind of like a weird it's like a hard-nosed turnaround on being practical and not frivolous from someone who is absolutely being frivolous and does not need to be practical any longer because they have
Right.
climbed their way to the top on a pile of, bloody labor, but
It's obviously excusing some sort of either workaholism or like avoidance of a family life for someone who's in that position of wealth to still be doing that.
certainly feels like it.
Now, on a completely unrelated topic from the New York Times, there's a mental health crisis among American children. Why?
Eh,
The pandemic is not the only reason.
well, it certainly can't be that all their parents are CEOs.
I mean, without the New York Times chooses to
Thank you
poll
to them,
people
yes.
they could have only polled CEOs' children for all we know.
Well, I mean, we're all supposed to be CEOs, right? Because like the whole premise is that if you rise and grind hard enough, I mean, if we all work hard enough, theoretically, we're all CEOs according to the logic of the American dream.
I mean, kids are CEOs now.
Yeah.
They probably have lots to be stressed about.
Yeah, meet the 15-year-old girl who has clinical depression because she opened a third company too soon.
What's this girl's opinion on work-life balance?
Yeah. You don't have to attend all of your own games.
I did see, like, I saw, maybe this was the one that they're referencing, but I saw a chart independent of any article, yeah, about like a massive climb and that's been trending for over a decade or longer now. About I think the metric was the number of high school students or percentage of high school students who consistently feel hopeless. Um, and it was like I think it was like 40% for the average, and then of course like 80% for LGBTQ people. Um, and yeah, I mean, it's really. I feel like no one's immune to that. I feel like it's saddest to hear about kids because they are supposed to be free of responsibility, but I think the factors that are affecting them are the same that are affecting most people, and kind of disheartening and immiserating the majority of the population, whether it's the pandemic or whether it's worsening labor conditions and stricter and stricter, um, management by increasingly monopolized conglomerates and sectors, or whether it's just social media being a constant barrage of misery. It's like, uh,
It's the intersection of both. It's the intersection of capitalism and the tech that's been created by it. It's that capitalism is making our world worse, and the death spiral of our economy, combined with the virality and stress inducing and like psychology abusing, exploiting mechanisms of social media, that is smashing these two disgusting ingredients into one, that is having an effect on everyone, but especially children who are exposed to this stuff and don't have the existing larger social kind of view of the world to handle it. So yeah,
yeah,
no surprise there.
and like the even if you're talking about like younger children, like the calamities are becoming more obvious and more unavoidable, even if you're not plugged into social media. Certainly, you're not plugged into the economy if you're a kid, unless you're feeling the secondhand stressors of your parents. But like, yeah, we have like massive wildfires every single year now. We have cyclones and hurricanes pounding the coasts in places that they haven't before. It's like that's just scary stuff. You don't have to be an adult or understand anything to understand that something bad is happening.
And it's part of a whole bunch of new articles cropping up from what are normally thought of as kind of like mainstream publications going like, things are not going well in America?
Yeah,
Like, where everyone's starting to like realize things aren't great?
right. How much longer can the establishment ignore that the facts on the ground are terrible for most people? That's the
Yeah,
real question: how are they surprised?
we've been in like 1996 for 30 years until now, basically. Like we've been locked in the middle of the 90s as far as how media thought of us, like some
Yeah.
sort of period of prosperity, end of Cold War, Fukuyama, end of history shit. And it's only just starting to really peel away as the volume of dog shit has piled so high that even they can't avoid it. And it's
Maybe,
just interesting to see how they interpret that.
I almost feel like New York Times thinks that Biden wasn't a return to Obama, but a return to Clinton.
Yeah, yeah,
And
absolutely.
it's like we're going back. It's not even nostalgia for '08 because things sucked in '08. It's like, as you say, they're trying to undo the last 25, 30 years of history. And we have a 25, 30-year older man in place. It's like if Clinton never went away and we pretended Iraq and Bush and Obama never happened. Well, the world is still happening, and it's not great. So you can't just keep pretending. What could possibly be the explanation for why all our kids are fat and depressed and hate everything and are isolated and feel, misled and uninformed? Like, yeah, because this is the world you made.
Well, maybe that's true, or maybe it's just the last decade that sucked.
Ah,
From the Atlantic,
of course.
why the past 10 years of American life have been uniquely stupid. And just like the previous one, it has a subtitle that's pithy and pointless. It's not just a phase.
I don't know. I feel like this actually could be merit to this. The last 10 years have been pretty stupid.
Yeah, I
And
mean, the title was in all caps, so it convinced me.
maybe they suss out something particular from the 2012 to now that was particularly dumb in some way.
I mean, I will say having two right-wing capitalists in the form of Obama and Mitt Romney battling for control in 2012 did feel very stupid. But that's pretty much every cycle.
Yeah, but I once again, you get your brain's going straight to like electoralism, and I don't think that's what they're referencing. Like, I think they're talking about.
I mean, the world failed to end in 2012. We'd already defeated Coney by 2012. What else do you associate with 2012?
I mean, yeah, like the fact that this doesn't include the decade after 9/11, really, I
Right.
think makes it so ridiculous. That was that's like those were the formative years of my life and like burgeoning political awareness,
Yeah.
and I am deeply aware of how extremely stupid and harmful they were. So I mean, uniquely though doesn't have to mean like worse. I guess it could just be like
Different.
yeah, it's like COVID. New strains of stupidity are constantly evolving, and
Mm.
we've identified a new strain that was prevalent between 2012 and 2022.
We just haven't been vaccinated against the unique stupidity of the last decade.
Exactly. We've protected ourselves, we've inured ourselves against our past mistakes, but this new one. Um, did you read what their thesis was at least, or is it a mystery?
No, I was too uniquely stupid to read beyond the title. I considered it, but I mean, it's the Atlantic, and it was a
Yeah.
stupid premise. I was just like, this isn't probably worth it.
I mean, the red flag is that it's in all caps.
Yeah. Hey, folks, editor's note. We lost a little bit of audio here, but the next section we're responding to a New York Times article by David Brooks called Globalization is Over. The Global Culture Wars Have Begun.
It wasn't even like subtle. He's just saying India, Pakistan, they're arguing about like the trans bathroom bill. Like, no, other places are doing with their own cultural problems. They're not engaging in our culture war. Our culture war is actually uniquely American. Now it's kind of like
How do you even have a global culture war
right, a different culture.
when each hasn't agreed on the culture?
Yeah, I mean that's what he's saying.
What culture? What universal? What shared global culture? There is no shared culture. We, by definition, live in a fractured culture. Alluding to our stupid last article, the Tower of Babel. We all speak different languages. We all have different history. We're all different.
Yeah, but
That's good.
didn't you hear we successfully canceled Russia?
We canceled the Tower of Babel.
And Tower
my
was definitely
God.
canceled.
I'm gonna cancel God.
There's a pretty sinister undercurrent to this one, and I think it's just because David Brooks is such a nerd. But I'm pretty sure that he's also making allusion to the Clash of Civilizations thesis,
Oh,
which
God.
was popular based on the work of Samuel Huntington and Bernard Lewis and the like that, who basically are like, oh, the real wars aren't going to be between, self-interested global actors all pursuing their rational, aggressive Machiavellian schemes. It's between like Muslims and Jews and Christians and Africans.
But
Yeah.
they
Like,
didn't
yeah.
say that culture war would play out on Twitter with people accusing each other of being too cucked and soy faced.
Yeah, I know.
So they
They
still
were too
meant
soon.
they
Yeah.
still meant there'd be an actual war.
Yeah.
It would just be over different ideologies, not that it would just be people shitting on each other on the internet. That's not a fucking war. We
It
have
just
a war
feels-
going on. We know what a war looks like.
It feels to me like, despite actual literal wars going on, that on some level, David Brooks is like, I'm afraid of Muslim Twitter.
Yeah,
Like
100%,
something like that.
Yes.
I mean, I'll be honest, Muslim Twitter does not sound great. I would not want to go.
I wouldn't want to be on any religious site.
or as they call it, Al Twitter.
Huh?
All right. Pause for applause.
They got nothing. All right. Well, I'll cut that.
Keep it in, you coward.
Well, let's finish our last of the big thinkers. Yeah, well, of course. The last of the big thinkers is appropriately from Mr. Elon Musk
Oh, biggest brain in tech.
and Fox Business.
Second biggest brain.
Elon Musk calls out Taylor Swift and Justin Bieber
Oh my
for
God.
rarely tweeting.
Oh my God.
Quote, is Twitter dying? Subhead, Elon Musk notes most of these top accounts tweet rarely and post very little content.
Yeah, because it's almost like when there are 300 million people following you and you tweet like taking a shit, you don't get good responses. It's almost like it's almost like people shouldn't have big numbers of things.
It's almost like they're carefully managed brands.
It's almost like they don't care about Twitter as much as Elon Musk.
Elon Musk is a fucking moron.
Yes. Also, he just basically bought Twitter after
know,
saying he
it-
hated it, which is
And
hilarious to me.
well, he said he bought a chunk so he could change it, and he also broke SEC codes and
Yeah.
made $150 million for free.
Yeah.
For, tax exempt because he's a cunt. But the point is, he's a moron. Because well, you know what? Actually, there's something interesting here. The fact that he does not think of himself as a carefully managed brand,
Yeah.
is actually fascinating. He's like the most realist dude because he's not controlling of himself. He doesn't limit himself. He says whatever he wants. He doesn't control his brand for good PR. He just goes hog wild because he's like, whatever, I have infinite money. I can do whatever I want. It's a playground, which I kind of respect, but he's still an idiot.
I would respect him more if he didn't constantly delete his tweets. If you're gonna be that stupid and reckless on main, at least let it sit out there for posterity. You know, stand behind your reckless tweets.
Well, for him, it's like stand up. It's like if a joke doesn't land, everyone forgets. All right, we
Yeah.
move on to the next open mic.
It is very strange that someone as like much of a reckless dumbass as he is even has the presence of mind to delete a bad tweet. That's like to me, that's actually like a very moderately respectable act of like, yeah, I did shit the bed. I should.
Yeah,
probably
but the
clean
problem
that up.
is the impulse to first publish a dumb tweet is.
Yeah, it's a weird combination. Like you'd think you would just have a guy who's like, oh, you shouldn't publish this.
Nah.
Just hire like one guy to look over his shoulder and be like, nah, bro.
No, what happens is he tweets some bullshit. He's like, top engineer goes, that's gonna fuck us over. He's like, fine, I'll get rid of it. That's good. It's impossible. You can't just throw magnetrons on the rocket. And send it
I'm just saying,
by the way,
if you want to tweet like, the vaccine is like a Jewish Soros conspiracy and then wait 40 minutes, then delete it, you could have just not done that.
we missed it the other week. The Cybertruck is officially dead.
Yeah,
Oh,
I saw
no.
that.
Get
too,
fucked, normies.
It just wasn't funny enough to cut.
All you bitches thought the cyberpunk future was real. Not in the good ways. Only all the bad ways. And you don't even get the product you want. You don't even get the cool product at the end.
Where will I get my weird angular vehicle?
I wonder if my marketing campaign of taking $50 down payments on a $100,000 truck was a sound investment, or whatever it was, like $100 to reserve one. Fucking stupid. It's like a pre-order for a video game.
Now we've gone from the just sort of generally stupid thoughts into specifically Republican brain.
I love
and the rot therein.
It's the best brain, folks.
For some reason, they've been getting
really Republicans.
they've been getting really ornery over the last few months, kind of gearing up to start talking shit.
Do we have a Josh Hallway monitor? Show up or no?
To my chagrin, the New York Times does a pretty good job of categorizing this, so I got a couple from them.
To my chagrin, sounds like a Fortune 500 black CEO.
All right,
that's a good joke.
A college fights leftist academics by expanding into charter schools. Subhead, Hillsdale College is building a national charter school network. Tennessee invited the college to start 50 of them using public funds.
Yep.
Not a lot of manipulation here that I could tell, just dog shit.
Yeah, just absolute garbage.
I don't understand the headline. How is one particular college fighting the academics? Are they fighting the leftists? That the fact that they're leftists, even though they're not, or the fact that they're academics? Are they firing the leftist academics from their school? Are they saying we're going to do the opposite?
They're purging the cultural Marxists in public schools by destroying the public school system, it seems.
Yeah, they're basically tacitly acknowledging that well-educated people are often
correct.
more likely to move left because they have the facts to
Because they're
analyze.
correct.
Yeah, the conditions.
And Tennessee's like, we'll invest in that falsehood.
Also, this is definitely not about helping wealthy white kids not go to the same schools as black kids
Yeah, this
because of
isn't
desegregation.
right. This isn't just totally secretly segregation for like taking its final form.
Yeah,
After the 100 years they've been trying to get it, or well, 60, like 60 years
yeah.
they've been trying to get it back legal.
I mean, it's still actively fighting leftism, so at least they're still on message.
Yeah, it's on brand.
Yeah, the academic leftists they're fighting are the ones that said you need to desegregate in 1954. That's what they're fighting.
Yep.
Well, sorry,
That is the
state of
U.S.
Tennessee.
Supreme Court back when it functioned. Yeah, it really sucks. Like, there's not a lot to talk about here. I mean, technically, there's tons you could talk about here, but there's not a lot for us to talk about that's funny.
Well,
Um,
Tennessee, you have an opportunity this election, which is coming up sooner than people are thinking, to
Yeah.
oust all these fuckers and let stuff like this die.
That would be a good topic, though, for a deep dive. Is
Yeah.
charter school system.
It's
I
really
agree.
bleak, man.
It's
really
really shitty.
It's a
horrible.
combination of resegregation and Christian psychosis.
Yeah.
Smashed into one.
Yeah. Plus the extreme
And just rich just
hold that
benefiting
the rich have over shaping things like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and stuff.
Yeah, and it's like increasingly bipartisan, despite the fact that it's so obviously a gift to racists and Republicans. I have no idea why. I mean, I guess money, but I have no idea what ideologically
But
would bring the
still.
Democrats to the table. Anyway, let's talk about something less depressing than that. Abortion. In my other New York Times article, woman in Texas charged with murder in connection with self-induced abortion. Whether the woman had the abortion or was aiding one was unclear. So once again, not so much deceptive as just horrifying. We've now seen the fruit of that earlier Texas legislation we covered, which was basically outlawing women having rights. And now they're actually acting on it. I was kind of worried it was going to be like a dog the bounty hunter chasing down abortion doctors, which I think is also happening. But this one's now suing women for getting abortions
Well,
and charging them with murder.
Can't be surprised. This is exactly what the legislation was designed to do. By criminalizing abortion, you force women to take stuff in their own hands, then you make that behavior criminal, and you start throwing women in jail for not wanting to give birth to children they don't want.
Which is not only extremely dangerous for the woman, but like the fact that you not only face very serious health risks of trying to do abortion outside of a medical facility, but to then face criminal prosecution in a state that might even put you to death for it is so insane as to be almost beyond satire.
Well, I somehow doubt they're going to be putting people to death for it, but
I mean, if you are convicted of murder in Texas, there's a non-zero chance.
No. It has to be a capital murder. There's different rules around what you can get death penalty for.
Well, I mean, it's unprecedented, right? Like we've never seen one of these go to complete trial. We don't know how they're like what degree of murder they're going to be charged with, what the circumstances are. I mean, it's presumably premeditated.
Yeah, but this is all designed as a Supreme Court bait.
Of course.
This is not like they're going to see this case through.
Yeah, it's just. I mean, we don't know, right? Like we don't know what's going to happen because this is such a bafflingly insane thing to do.
We don't know, so we shouldn't speculate that they're going to start putting women to death because that's just not the likeliest outcome. But there's a different thing which is going on. There's a 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon here, which is you throw the woman in jail, you force her to give birth to the baby. The baby's now in the foster care system. The kid is living in the 21st century where everything sucks. They become a burden on society, and Republicans get their talking points out again. So it creates a cycle of misery that Marjorie Taylor Greene loves to talk about because her whole job is spreading misery.
I mean, sure, that's certainly there too. But I mean, the fact that you're seeing like an exodus of women from Texas and this kind of horrific shit. I mean, this is having very serious consequences even before it gets through the courts, just in terms of the culture of fear and like chilling effect on basic human rights that's happening across several really insane Republican states right now that really are like on par with Taliban social politics.
Yeah.
And there's just there doesn't seem to be any sense of like, okay, this is just like one nutty guy who got elected somehow. This is becoming fairly mainstream across the Republican Party in almost every state they control to try to pull some rank shit like this.
It's called federalism, Alex.
Yeah, that's the beauty of federalism.
This is the marble cake experimenting of the states. This is their right.
Just to give a some good news. I followed the story, and the DA dropped the charges against her.
Yeah, of course.
But I mean, I still agree with everything that was said. Like, this is just the first of many, I think.
The
And
threat being the chilling effect is the goal. It's
and
not the actual prosecution. It's the saber rattling. It's saying we could do this if we wanted to.
Yeah, and the law is not repealed. Like whether or not they
Yeah.
prosecute any individual woman, they could very well prosecute more.
No, but
There's nothing stopping them.
But it's also unconstitutional, and if ever was challenged, would lose if they got it there.
But that's the thing. They're hoping it gets to the Supreme Court where they can hopefully push it through under some ludicrous bullshit
But
because
now we
they
got-
control the court so dramatically.
Now we got Black CEO. We got Ketanji Brown Jackson, who's gonna fucking whip a Nene and turn that shit down because that's what all the Democrats.
But it doesn't matter. She was replacing one of the three that were already liberal. It's still a 6-3 court.
Oh,
Which means we're fucked. Like you
Right,
have to
you.
have two Republican defectors in order to not kill Roe v. Wade. I don't see it happening.
didn't you know that you just have to vote D because every new Supreme Court candidate counts as 5?
Yeah. Well,
I mean, Thomas might be dying, so
just another brief piece of evidence for what I'm afraid of, which is that this is spreading across more than just Texas and Florida. From Axios, Oklahoma governor signs bill making nearly all abortions illegal. Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt, Republican, on Tuesday signed a bill into law. I don't know why it's written that way. That makes providing abortion a felony. So again, this is not like one or two crazy states. This is becoming like core Republican plan, which is blatantly violate constitutional rights, and then, as you say, bait them into a legal challenge with the hope that this overturns Roe v. Wade nationally. So it's a win-win for them because either they make their states into hellholes that have functionally subverted and perverted the rule of law indefinitely, or it triggers a legal challenge which very likely destroys a right nationally. So they've basically just decided any state that has Republican control no longer has rights for gay people, women, anything.
But this isn't new. That's been their plan since the 70s. It's just finally
they've never been so close to achieving it. Yeah,
it's just they're almost at the end of that race. Yes, they are following up on their action. In fact, if you were a psycho Republican, you were happy because they were getting your political ends accomplished. They were achieving their goals.
Yeah,
they are succeeding at their political project, and their project happens to be evil, but they are good at politics. They are getting their politics done.
But for all the people who are like, "Oh, they'll never actually do it," all they want to do is, gin up their base and stuff. It's like, I do understand that cynicism. I do understand the idea that politicians are just ginning up their base. But no, they are doing it. So you have to actually take it seriously. Like, it's not just saber rattling when you're prosecuting people and banning basic human rights.
People saying that are Democrats who are projecting, because that's what Democrats do.
Right.
Is gin up their base and then not follow through. Republicans like following through if they can. They like spreading misery.
Yeah, they love it.
Actually. That is their bag, baby.
It makes them feel big. But let's talk about another thing that's spreading, which shouldn't be a surprise to no one.
BA.2?
From CBS News, mask mandates return as COVID-19 cases rise across the U.S. So this isn't especially remarkable, except that we just stopped doing this like 5 seconds ago. Like, the amount of time between the surge and then the return to the masking is becoming so laughably short that at a certain point you may as well just like keep it in your back pocket. just like half wear it and then slip it down the 3 seconds later when the news comes in that's like, oh, we shouldn't have done that because the pandemic's not over. I don't know. Like, this one's frustrating to me because we've been having these arguments even in like relatively progressive or liberal or democratic states, as much as that's a thing, about whether it makes sense to be doing mask mandates. And we have these massive fights, and it's like, do you love your children? Then you don't want them to wear masks, or do you? And then so we turn off mask mandates, like, what, 2 weeks ago, and now we're right back to we should probably do mask mandates. It's just like, what credibility do we have left as a society or as a government when we keep saying you don't need to do, well, let's not do this thing, and then we need to do it again. It's like, if I was like a vaccine skeptic or some other idiot who was like not sure about it, well, now I'm super not sure about it because you have no credibility. Well, you cow too many times.
Who's the you in this example?
The U.S. government and its political parties and its institutions' only credibility is saying, hey, we know we're in crisis mode. You need to do these following things that are unpleasant to protect us. So please do them for the sake of everyone. If you've like 4 times now said you can stop doing them, no, wait, you need to do them again. people are just going to stop doing it, even if it does make sense to do it. Because you can't tell people like it's over when it's not over, and then have them believe you, and then say no, it's not over and over again. You're just boy who cried wolfing on the end of the pandemic.
Well, it's not quite cried wolf because it's based on the numbers. So like when the numbers are high, it's because we're fundamentally reactive. The numbers go, we put our masks on, the numbers start to drop. Everyone goes, "Oh, great, the numbers are down. We can take our masks off." Then the numbers start to go up again. People go, "Oh no, the numbers are up again. More people are dying. Put your masks back on."
But it's almost like the numbers went up because we took the masks off.
Yes. We are never going to fully eliminate it because we don't have the capacity as a governing system. So it's just going to be this cycle of, oh, should we put our mask on? Yeah. Oh, is it low enough? You don't care. Go to restaurants. Cool. No big deal. And some parts of the country are going to keep the mask mandates on for a long time. Some are never going to put them back on. I guarantee you Florida's not going back on their mask mandates, or Texas. So it's just going to be, we have a totally stochastic rant, like incoherent, although it's actually not incoherent. It's just the conservative states are going to have no mask mandates, and the more liberal states are going to have mask mandates, and the viral rates are going to be different in each state. That's just what we're going to live with.
It's so completely predictable what's going to happen that it's laughable but also incredibly irresponsible to have ever dropped these in the first place when you were fully aware it was going to result in mass death once again and forcing to go back to them anyway.
Yeah, and if we had all just done it for 6 months at the very beginning in 2020, it would have been gone anyway. But we don't have the capacity to just to all pull in lockstep. So it's just going to be this cycle for a long ass time until it fades to the back burner. It's just like the flu, although it's more deadly, which is like the way we, on a policy level, treat the flu. And it's just gonna be that thing in the back. Oh, you hear the new COVID news, and not really. Yeah, we're not eliminating it. Just get that out of your brain.
I mean, I'm not going to get that out of my brain because I don't believe that, and I don't think that we can have a functioning society if we don't eliminate it. But what did you have in?
I was just gonna say that, and this is exacerbated, although this has been true to some extent since the very first strain of COVID hit the world. That like BA2 was something that we were tracking and we were well aware was coming for months before it hit the US and was widespread. So it's like, it wasn't even just like, yes, at this point you should know that it's a pattern. It's like, no, you knew when it would hit, you knew how it was spreading, and still, like, just as it was burgeoning into the newest widespread wave of infections, you said, hey, there's been enough time. I checked my calendar. It's been a month since last peak. Let's take those masks off, boys and girls. It's just so stupid. Like it's not even just, you know, like fatigue. It's like it's fatigue in the face of blatant telegraphed information. It's just so lazy and stupid, and like I completely understand people feeling fatigue on an individual level, even though I don't support them using that to give permission to themselves to endanger others. But governments aren't supposed to cede to that kind of stuff. But yeah, for the point we're at right now, can't really hope for even the basic minimum from our government.
And it's another thing that like was exclusively a Republican talking point until it wasn't. And it was an insane like conspiracy theory Trump era holdover to say like, oh, the vaccine's not going to work, or the masks aren't going to work, or we shouldn't do these. Just send them back to the grist mill. And almost like clockwork, it's been about 2 years, and the Democrats have just internalized it. And it's just half the Democrats now are like, well, business needs to operate. People need to do what they need to do. We're never going to fix this. So, and it's like, have any kind of political ideology or get off the pot. Like if you want to oppose conspiracy theory bullshit, then please oppose it. And if you don't, then fuck off and let someone else oppose it. Because we don't need two Republican parties. And this was a laughable conspiracy theory take 2 years ago that has now become almost every state, house in the country with a bunch of Democrats going like, I don't know, they're not happy about the masks. It's just sick to me. Anyway.
Yeah, well, the Democratic Party is not going to say, you know what, Alex, you're right. Time to stand by our principles. No, they will fall to capital.
No, of course, it's just more evidence for the obvious that
Correct.
They could not give less of a shit about what actually
Step 1, stop expecting better. Step 2, revolution.
Sure. Speaking of revolution, in the last of our Republican brain rot articles as we lead into the inevitable Ukraine and Russia news, from CNN, Trump brazenly asks Putin to release dirt about Biden's family.
I thought he did this 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, he did it again like 2 weeks ago.
Wait,
Or a
no,
week
ask
ago.
Putin.
Yeah,
Oh, because originally it was he asked Zelensky to do it.
In the
or-
middle of
like
the
both
war with
sides.
Russia. Literally in the middle of the Russo-Ukrainian war, whatever it ends up being called. Putin's like, Putin's a little focused, and then Trump goes, I know you're fighting a war, but could you give me some dirt?
I mean, Putin's not
What do you
busy.
got?
He's got like 8 shadow chancellor spy masters. They could do it if they wanted.
He's busy. He's busy purging all of them right now.
He's
though.
busy just giving speeches and being mad.
Yeah, it's just wild. This it's hard to believe that this man exists. Trump.
Which one? Because they're both insane.
Nah, this is the most Trump thing Trump's ever done. This is quintessential Trump. Essence of Trump. Trump ass.
Like he has no fucking clue about optics or anything. He doesn't give a shit.
But he's right. It doesn't matter. It doesn't come across as bad for him.
You don't think tying yourself to Putin at the moment that he's probably the most hated man in the world is going to have any consequences for him?
No, I do not.
I hope you're not right, but you could be.
I mean,
This means fuck all to his supporters. If anything, it means like, man, look how fucking cool he is. He's talking to Putin in the middle of a war. Like, yeah, he thinks it's chill.
if that's
And Rachel Maddow can be like, but that's not right. She can do that all she wants. She's not convincing anyone.
I mean, if that's true and it has no effect on his base, then that I guess I actually like that because that means his base is at least a bit smaller than I thought it was. Because this is like the most blatant of transgressions of like of like any kind of basic decorum, and not even like the kind of decorum that mainstream Democrats or Republicans like to talk about, but like the kind of like just like basic faux pas of like when the entire world and the vast majority of politicians on both sides of the aisle are railing against someone as being worse than Hitler, you probably shouldn't be trying to wink nudge them. But the man I mean, he's been very rarely burnt before, so why wouldn't he try for it whenever he feels like it?
In my opinion, we are so past the faux pas stage. I think he is genuinely right that he could kill someone on Fifth Ave and he could get elected again. I think if he whipped his dick out and put it on national television, most people would be like, man, I got a big dick to Trump. That's awesome. I'm cool. And the other people would be like, damn, Trump's got a bigger dick than me. Like, it wouldn't affect anything. No one would give a shit. It wouldn't be like, oh, well, now he can't run. It doesn't matter. Only thing that matters for him is raw accumulation of power. This doesn't in any way intersect. They're on different dimensions.
Let's put it this way. The Republican Party broadly has gotten in line with the rest of American politics and the deep state and the military and everyone in saying that Putin's out of his fucking gourd and that this war is like basically an atrocity and a threat to Western alliances and NATO. So the only thing the Republicans are wedded to more than Trump is being an American empire. And the idea that the Republicans are going to collectively change their mind and suddenly be pro-Putin seems very unlikely.
No, not the
even if Trump is.
Not the candidates, but the people. The voters don't give a shit.
Sure, it's just this is going to drive an even bigger wedge than was already forming between Trump and the rest of the Republican Party.
Good. I hope they keep fighting each other like everyone's shitting on Cawthorn.
Yeah.
I yes, that would be great. That would actually sowing discord inside the Republican elites is good.
Yeah.
But this has no impact on his base.
Like Mitch McConnell is pretty much the bellwether of like what the mainstream Republican position is. And he's already multiple times come out and been like, Zelensky's a hero and Putin's a monster. And this is horrible. Which is all basically true. I mean, he's saying it for cynical reasons, other than Zelensky being an unambiguously good figure. But whatever.
Right. They're both much greater than that.
The point is the disconnect between Trump and the Republicans is now becoming very, very obvious in a way that is interesting. I mean, I think it will cost him internally within the party much more than it costs him, as you say, with his voting base.
Trump's a new Bull Moose party. I don't know.
But yeah,
Trump to fuck it up.
Like I would not be surprised by like Trump independent run or something. Because I don't even know if he gets the candidacy at the rate he's going. Like he's losing track of the Republican like ideology really quickly.
That would shatter the Republican Party. That would be crazy.
Yeah.
And the Democrats would be like a dog who finally got the bone. They wouldn't know what to do with it. Like, we won with like 65% of the vote. What the fuck? What do we do? Do we have a mandate though?
I just think we have a non-zero chance of like a Ross Perot style Trump
Yeah,
candidacy
that'd be cool.
because
That
of how
wasn't that
far he's
long ago.
drifting.
That
No, it
was
wasn't.
only
That was in
30
the
years ago.
90s. Yeah, that was in the 90s.
It's 92.
It's great because he would just call it the Trump Party. Like he
Yeah.
couldn't call it anything
You're
else.
right.
And his like 25% of the country would always vote for him, which would totally fuck the actual Republican.
But see, then the
So-
question is it like Islam? Like when he dies, like who gets to continue
Yeah.
the lineage of the Trump party? Is it his birth children? Is it Kushner? Is it all like the married in lawyers? Who counts as a real Trump? Like, you know, do Eric and Junior have to like fight to the death?
It has to be Barron, right? Because he's the only one who's not been destroyed in the public eye.
And he's named fucking Barron.
Yeah.
Baron von Trump. It's the sickest name ever.
Okay.
He's got autism. So he'll get along like great with Elon and the new future ruler.
Does he actually, or is that just like a riv?
I think he has autism.
Yeah, because like I believe that. I just don't know if it's actually true.
It's also not a put down. Like it's he's not a bad person. In fact, he's
No,
probably
I-
one of the
no,
most
I-
ethical Trumps out there.
I'm not talking about whether it's a put down. Just I didn't want to jump on that if that's true or not. If it's not,
I don't
Just-
care. In Minecraft, whatever. TM, allegedly, who
Autism in
cares?
Minecraft.
Whatever.
yeah, he has autism, but only when playing Minecraft.
Only in Roblox. Like, it doesn't matter.
When you compare it to Islam, it would be so funny if like MBS like cozied up to Trump so much they convinced him to convert to Islam or something.
No, Trump gets MBS to convert to Trumpism. Yeah, he's like Augustus who's like, this Christianity sounds kind of interesting.
Yeah.
They do a swap where Trump becomes Muslim and MBS becomes Jewish.
Yeah, they swap jerseys
Yeah,
at the end of the game.
we're all people of the book. He holds a Quran upside down.
Oh no, that's a Photoshop waiting to be made.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
I have no segue because that was so baffling. But let's return to the Ukraine-Russia stuff.
You're welcome.
From Reuters.com, Russia decided to get in on the insane banning of human rights. Russia revokes registration of Amnesty and Human Rights Watch. Basically, Russia has decided that because it's getting its war crimes investigated, that human rights organizations are not real.
They're not allowed to like investigate in Russia.
They're not allowed to exist in Russia. Like they're no longer referred to as organizations. They're like banned.
Okay.
This is, I assume, Amnesty International.
Yeah, Amnesty International
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Human Rights Watch, the two biggest, essentially Western organizations dedicated to sniffing out human rights abuses. Now, again, I don't want to provide complete cover there. They do both have problems. They're both much
Yeah,
more
these are not
right-leaning than they
flawless
should be,
organizations.
and they both do have an American bias. But like, they also do what they say they do. Like the fact that they have a bias doesn't mean they don't do what they do.
No.
No, they just happen to selectively choose all of Americans' enemies and say, "Oh, you're violating human rights." But this is like we were talking about with the cops, like opting out of those FBI hate
Right.
watch stuff. Like, yeah, cool. Like, and
Yeah, so it's funny because it strikes me as like once again one of those like really pathetic moves that proves the very thing it's meant to avoid. It's like the Streisand effect. Like if you have to ban human rights organizations from your country that you were totally fine with until 2 minutes ago, it kind of just says everything, right? Like they don't even need to provide a report. You've basically written it for them.
right, the power move is banning them before you do the invasion.
Right.
You know what's coming.
He should have banned him like 8 years ago when he did the first one just to like get ready for
Right.
this one.
You should give some speech like these are secret branches of the CIA and NATO and fuck them. And they're not real human rights organizations. And
Yeah,
then-
the Human Rights Watch might actually be a branch of the U.S. deep state, but even so, this is the wrong time to ban them if you want to make any kind of point that doesn't look like just I don't want to be caught with my shit in my pants.
Yeah, it just feels like them saying, "Oh, I'm gonna do it."
Yeah.
And they have. So,
Mhm.
and people have still heard about it. So I guess, just some nice petty
You know, sometimes you just have to blow up a train station. What?
shot across the bow. Yeah,
That's not a human rights violation.
it's a train's right violation.
Look, sometimes you just have to leave landmines in a city. That's just what you do.
The masculine urge to.
Yeah,
leave
exactly.
landmines in the city.
True
Oscar-
Russians mine their own country that they
Oscar
claim is
Jags.
theirs. Yeah, really insane. That this was like once again to me this was like on level with the Trump thing. It's like this is gonna work, right? Let's just say it.
This is a good look.
There is no way to confirm that like this will be the end of Putin.
No, you're right. I mean, he
No.
may very well survive this, which is also says something that he's kind of like the Trump of Russia, where like they just can't seem to get rid of him.
Yeah, but he consolidated power way better in Russia.
Well, yeah,
than
he's had
Trump
20
did.
fucking years.
Yeah.
Trump's too old, but like if Trump had gotten in there a lot earlier, who knows? Um, this one's very strange to me, and I want your take on what you think they're saying. From the Washington Post, war impels many in Ukraine to abandon Russian language and culture.
Impels? It's a weird way of just saying like urges.
Yeah, it's like halfway between compels and
Right.
suggests.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a word that basically no one ever uses. Um,
Like, are they intentionally like scrubbing their mind of the knowledge of Russian?
No, it just means they'll like speak Russian less or not teach your kids it. But like, are they gonna do less like bending on the knee, kick dancing now? I mean,
Right.
what exact can someone conveniently define for me Russian culture or like American culture in a way that's cohesive?
They
and
are no
coherent?
longer going to wear tracksuits and squat.
Right. They're no longer gonna wear Adidas. Like, what are they talking about? What does whoever wrote this think Russian culture means?
Right.
I guarantee they saw some anecdotes, heard some anecdotes about, as I have, about, oh, my grandma has spoken Russian and Ukrainian her whole life. After seeing her cities bombed by Russia, she's no longer going to speak Russian anymore and is focusing only on Ukrainian as a language. It's like it's really a nothing story. Like even if the roots behind it of how people who maybe had felt some ties to Russia to see their friends, their family, their countrymen destroyed by Russian forces, obliterated by Russian bombs, like has deeply hurt them and caused some kind
Right.
of real cultural wound that did not need to happen, is being turned into like a we're turning our backs on Russia. Russia no longer invited. Only Ukrainian culture in this house, which is very, very dumb. Right?
It just strike you as like a freedom fries thing where it's like, even though this is an individual dictator's decision, that we've just decided that the entire peoples of Russia are at fault and the Russian language and culture are at fault. So it's just like we can't do those anymore. Like a substantial minority of Ukraine, something like 40%, are ethnic Russians and their native language is Russian. Is that just not true now? Like I don't understand what this, like, what does that mean?
They could just shirk that identity. What? No big deal.
It's just such a
big
fucking
American.
weird thing to say. Like, it's now freedom vodka. Like, I don't even understand what this would mean. Like, if it means like the eternal sunshine of the spotless Russian, I guess that's a very weird thing to assert. But I actually think it means something much more sinister, which is they're terrified of being like pogromed by Ukrainians for collaborating with Putin. Like the native Ukrainians are like, Putin's made us
Right,
seem
so
like collaborators.
right, if anything Russian is scare is in right, I see what you're saying.
So I suspect what's actually going on is native Ukrainian Russians are going, we better shut the fuck up because we don't want to look like we're allied to Putin, and
Right,
we
we
don't
don't
want to
wanna
give
be
any
associated with
reason
this.
to get fucking lynched by rightfully angry but misguided anger from the Ukrainian population or military.
Yeah, I mean, no idea if that's true, but it certainly sounds pretty reasonable to me.
Or at least they're hedging their bets. They don't wanna be even associated.
Again, like I don't want to jump to conclusions, but as descendants of Jews who fled from Ukraine because they were getting murdered in pogroms, um, no country is immune to lynching people they perceive as traitors or outside of their cultural mainstream.
Yeah, especially during war.
So what Putin's doing is insanely belligerent and evil, and it should be noted that he's throwing under the bus Ukrainian Russians as hard as anyone, because now they're in this ridiculous position of having to affirm an identity over their own identity, just like Japanese internment in the United States
Right.
during World War II, or any other peoples who are now caught between these powers.
And this is the reality that whenever any major country goes to war, it reflects badly on your people and your culture.
Yeah.
Like if China's doing some dank colonialism, it makes it like look bad to be Chinese. If Russia's doing this shit, it makes it bad to look Russian. All like the amount of bad will that America has garnered over the last 20 years for our shit in the Middle East makes Americans look bad and like we're dumb assholes.
Yeah.
So yeah, like there's another chalk another one on the list of reasons to not go to war is because it makes your culture look fucking stupid.
But also when you consider the immense wealth and richness of Russian culture, which has contributed a huge amount to Western
It's been
civilization,
around a long ass time.
to throw all of that in the dumpster because of Putin strikes me as like
Yeah, it's not
letting
permanent.
it's like letting bin Laden destroy our constitution through 9/11. Like it's destroying something
Yeah, but
good
that did happen.
out of a ludicrous overreaction to an evil individual.
But
So I'm just seeing a
basically,
lot of parallels there.
but like bin Laden, in my opinion, essentially did single-handedly take down America. And two, it's not like permanent. It's just like being, it'll be like anti-Russian will be in vogue for the next few years
Yeah, we
until it
don't
all
know.
fades away.
It depends how it bears out. Yeah.
Yeah, but it feels very much like, you know, kind of immediate repugnance or aggression towards anyone who speaks, you know, um, the second most like common language in the world, Mandarin, when you hear it, because you think the CCP is evil,
Right.
or even just much dumber. Well, I don't know if much dumber, but even more nonsensical version of like you hear anyone speak, um, Spanish and assume they're from Mexico, and you hate Mexican immigrants. So
Right.
Which requires several complexes to jump to, but a lot
that's
of
why
people
I
do
said
it.
it's so
Yeah.
stupid, but yeah,
Speak American.
because it's just like language doesn't have ethics or any
Right.
moral thing. It's just so. I mean, it
But,
can.
but did you know Spanish is gendered? And to be a good liberal, you have to be like, this language is oppressive.
To be a good liberal, you have to be anti-Hispanic.
Yeah.
You
You have to be anti-romance languages.
You have to tell Spanish people that their O's and A's should be X's.
Yeah, you should have a totally functional and logical language like English. Which
Or
definitely isn't
a good ordered language like German.
Yeah, bloated and filled with stuff from like 5 other languages that makes it completely incomprehensible to second language learners. Speaking of bizarre things, in our last Ukrainian Russians thing, this is from Yahoo.
Oh, the real wild bag.
Sean Penn took a minute while pumping his gas to think about fighting Russians.
What? What is
This is an actual headline.
Was Sean Penn at a gas station and the thought bubble like
Yeah.
coalesced out of nowhere, like goddamn Dr. Manhattan reformed?
I left for like 5 minutes.
It was like, man, I'm thinking about go fight in Russia. What?
This is so obvious. Like he's been obsessed with supporting Ukraine against Russia militarily. Yeah. But this is so clear. He picked up the gas pump. It felt like a gun. And he thought about using it on Russians, and that was it. He had like a 5-year-old at the gas station moment.
Yeah, or he looked at like the $6 for gas price and was like,
"I'll kill to lower these."
No, it's the scene from what's that Ben Stiller movie where they're all models?
Yeah, Zoolander.
Yeah, Zoolander, where all spraying each other with gas, and then someone lights a cigarette and they all die.
Yeah,
but isn't he also like he like loves El Chapo Guzman? Like he like hangs out with drugs.
He interviewed him for a role.
He's like a weirdo.
He actually has very good politics.
Yeah, but he talks to all these weird, like, dissident figures.
Yeah.
But he's a weird dude.
He is in fact weird.
You don't mix your politics with your actors. This is also on the other end of the spectrum why you don't, like, be Jim from The Office and then go CIA spook. Like, stop dipping be a good actor in the politics.
Let's put it this way. This was funny to me for 2 reasons. One is the obvious, which is just it's a very funny head. Like it's just well constructed to make fun of him.
Very funny.
On the other hand, this is almost certainly a dig at him for being like left and for not like putting his money where his mouth is, even though he's 61. What's he gonna do? Well, he was like a friend. He was literally like a personal friend of Hugo Chavez. He's defended dissidents across the world. He's defended people who resist.
But how is fighting Russians left wing? It's not.
No, it's not. It's just that in this case, a famous longtime leftist is claiming he's going to do something or thinking about doing something, and they're ridiculing him for not following through.
But you're saying the article is being like this guy, ignoring all his privilege and his benefits from society while pumping his gas. Like maybe I'll think about doing something that requires more courage.
It's like the most Hollywood liberal elites don't put their money where their mouth is, like good gun-toting American conservatives would have, and it's like. How many fucking guys in their 60s are going to fight for Zelensky? Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
The irony is, actually, a lot of activists from Hollywood do more than you'd think because they have the means to. Like, DiCaprio takes very seriously his activism on climate. He's doing a lot more than most people. It's because he's got the means to do so. Sean Penn is worth lots of money, and he's been retired, essentially retired from acting. He's got the means to do whatever the fuck he wants. Go travel around the world, go talk to interesting, cool people. form opinions.
He is right now filming a film about Ukraine to mobilize people to fight for Ukraine.
Because most of the people who are going and fighting for Ukraine are essentially boxers and like MMA fighters who are Ukrainian, who are basically all fascists. So
yeah, let's not get into that.
like
That's a separate problem.
Cool, do your thing, be an old actor. This to me is the fact that some brag feels this needs to be a story is like the media problem that you're getting at.
Yeah.
But the actual story is like a whole big nothing.
It was the perfect headline because I could genuinely laugh at it while also going, yeah, this is a hit piece against a guy for being left right.
I mean, I thought him threatening to destroy his Oscar if they didn't let Zelensky speak.
It was pretty tough.
It was pretty tough, but
oh no, like he's a wacky guy. Like he's not a perfect person. He's had like issues.
His heart's clearly in the right.
He's got some of that Ben Affleck dumb guy energy, a little bit of it.
Yeah, well, it's more like the Elon impulsive energy. Like I wouldn't say he's dumb, but he's definitely like he just says it or does it before thinking through whether he should have.
But it's also a grain of that, like what the original use of oh fuck, what's the term? Come on, help me, guys. Help me out with the term. It's like
I don't know what you're thinking of.
Where you're like standing up for a thing, but just for the looks. What's it?
Virtue
signaling? Yeah, like that's the actual use of virtue signaling. Like to him, the virtue is like he's signaling that he is good and he will destroy the Oscar if they do a bad thing. Like to me, that's the kind of original use of virtue signaling, and it's a kind of an appropriate use. But now it just is like you slander anyone you don't like is doing virtue signaling. So
yeah, I just think it's kind of hard to shit on someone for virtue signaling when they're actually spending tons of time and energy and resources to help the thing they're claiming. Like he doesn't have to be filming a movie in support of the Ukrainian resistance.
No, but it's the same thing as burning your Nikes because like they made a Colin Kaepernick commercial. It's the same signaling.
Well,
we should watch that when it comes out because I'm sure it will not be perfect. That's all I'll say.
No, I'm sure it won't. But I for one, stand Sean Penn pumping his gas and thinking about fighting Russians. That's all I'll say.
I mean, it's better than most people who imagine, killing Arab terrorists in their movie theater or whatever.
How dare he pump gas? He should be driving an EV.
Yeah, that's the real thing.
He's supporting Americans for once. Let's move on to our generalized, just sort of hell world section.
Oh,
since I don't want to do too much.
We weren't there yet.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've been in Ukraine and Russia for a while. Let's talk about the other biggest threat to the NATO alliance.
We should update people. We're currently recording this from Ukraine.
Yeah, we're recording from Ukraine in our minds in Minecraft. But yeah, NATO is threatened by Putin, but that's not the only issue. From Politico.com, the White House is freaked out that Putin's next big win could be in Paris. If Russia apologist Marine Le Pen wins the French elections, Washington fears she could unravel the Western NATO alliance.
Where's this from again?
Politico.
Yeah, I mean, they don't really need to tie it into Russia, but like, yeah, the first round of French presidential elections have gone on, and fascinating the way that story's been covered. Everyone keeps saying, Macron got 27%, Le Pen got 23%. Who got 22%? The socialist? He doesn't need to be mentioned. It's a two-person race.
Yep.
Good stuff. And it's almost like what that guy tells his voters to do will determine the entire outcome of the election.
And the choice between far-right social politics versus far-right economic politics is surely one that the French cannot wait to make.
Yep.
But the real issue is they have to pick the capitalist one so that we can preserve NATO.
Yep,
apparently.
Exactly. Now, Le Pen is a terrifying person.
Oh, she's a piece of shit. Like, I'll be the first to say it. But still, so's Macron.
Yeah, but he represents that chick from Germany, like stability, economy, like bullshit. He doesn't represent
well-known German chick, Angela Merkel.
I don't give a shit. He doesn't represent, Sauron shouting to war because that's what Le Pen represents.
Though he is selling like nuclear submarines to Australia or whatever. So
whenever they need him,
he's kind of in there.
Hey,
that's normal. That's typical behavior.
What kind of wildlife they have to deal with over there? They need nukes for that shit.
Also, if the threat is that
fighters.
France pulls out of NATO, that would suggest Marine Le Pen is less warlike.
No, not necessarily.
I'm just saying the logical step from pulling out of military alliance because of entanglements.
No, but she might do like Frexit. She might do
Frank's.
quiet you, and she might do
No, I liked it.
and get out of NATO, and then the whole world's fucking destabilized.
Yeah, she may be pulling like the
She's a
action
pull-out
hero.
queen.
She she retires from the
Get that
army.
image out of your head.
So she could become a special
Done.
operative.
Recycling bin emptied.
Yeah, it was not hard.
Delete one.
I've now replaced all images of her in my mind with Angela Merkel. But yeah, so Marine Le Pen is the daughter of like an out and out French fascist, and she has been basically repping his party and trying to rehabilitate them from like open fascists to like soft fascists, which I guess is better than what they used to be, kind of. But the fact that this is even the options tells you how fucked France's politics have become. Seeing it used to be like the hotbed of like Western socialism, and now it's basically dog shit like everywhere else. But the fact that this is framed as like you have to stop fascism to preserve NATO is a very interesting look at like the kind of Democrat brain, like this like deep state Democrat alliance that's really been forming in this new Cold War that we're brewing up, which is the good, responsible conservatives are actually like the capitalist libs and who are preserving us against the fascists like Trump or Marine Le Pen. And in order to preserve the deep state and the international order based on American empire, we have to vote Dem or Macron, which is a really bizarre shifting of alliances, but not entirely unforeseen given what the last 6 years have been.
Right. It's actually a perfectly rational alliance. These spooks want to keep existing.
Yeah.
They recognize that fascism will lead to most likely annihilation. Because some fascists, if they become president, is going to drop nukes. And that's the end of everything. So they recognize it's in their interest to be like, no, we'll just ride the capitalism train till it ends. That'll last longer.
It's the blue alliance, which is a joke that like 6 people are going to get.
I don't get it. So,
blue is the color of the Democratic Party. It's also the color of conservatism in Europe.
Okay.
There's 6 people are going to love that shit.
Yeah, but they're laughing right now.
In Minecraft.
In Minecraft, exactly. 6 might have been high. Well, the point is, we gotta really hold one out for Macron.
Man, we really need Minecraft skins now.
Yeah, I gotta find my Minecraft login from 10 years ago.
More than 10. When you were like, "Here's this zip file from Notch." It's like Swedish website.
No, I was building a city from Game of Thrones in it, which means it had to have at least been partway into that.
Maybe.
Anyway, before I out myself as wasting even more of my life, from independent.co.uk, as we move from French fuck-ups to English fuck-ups, black man stopped by Met Police for, quote, wearing coat during warm weather. Subhead, you're not dressed for the climate, officers told the 20-year-old before searching him.
Where was this?
I don't know, somewhere in the UK. I watched the video of it. It was just a black guy like walking down the street and a bunch of police rushed him because he had like a coat on.
But it was hot? It was too hot out?
They were arguing that because it was like 60 degrees that he shouldn't be wearing a winter coat.
So if he was wearing a coat, he must be like concealing weapons or something.
Right.
I mean, that's funny.
One of the weirdest videos. It felt like a Reno 911 call because there was a female cop in there too, and they were trying to be like apologetic, but like also we're gonna racial profile you.
I voted Tory because there's black people wearing coats during hot weather. Right. Like, what the fuck is going on?
The guy was like, "What are you talking about?" And he was clearly like Jamaican as well, so like he's used to a much hotter climate. It's like I don't know. Everything was fucking weird about it.
But, I mean, maybe they just didn't like his drip, or they wanted eminent domain and steal his cool jacket.
It kind of felt like it.
Like, imagine if the end of that Willem Dafoe drip video, the cops are like, "Sir, it's too warm out. You can't be wearing this drip."
So you're under. This is the fashion police.
Yeah, how did they not make a fashion police pun?
I don't know how they missed it.
You fucked up so bad, people who wrote this.
That's what happens when you're independent.
You say fashion police faux pas. Black man stopped for wearing coat during hot weather.
Rise of the fashion police?
How am I a better like armchair journalist than all these fuckers? Holy shit. Get on your A game. Rise and grind.
No, they don't need to. They're in some sinecure.
It would be, I mean, I don't want people to be racially profiled, but it would be very funny if they started to enforce this across like all demographics. So like all the weird like white kids who wear shorts in the middle of winter around campus.
You're
all this
arrested, and they you force put on like snow pants.
Yeah, this is not appropriate to the climate.
Oh, this is another excuse to arrest like homeless people. Like, sir, you're not dressed for the occasion.
You may as well arrest like a third of the Midwest because they're just
Yeah.
used to the cold weather and they do that. Yeah, very, very strange that this was, especially because it wasn't even that warm. It was just like a slightly warmer day than usual in early spring.
I want there to now be mass protests where everyone shows up wearing giant baggy over the top jackets
Yeah,
and everyone's super warm.
yeah. Frisk this.
Want
yeah.
another V for Vendetta Photoshop of like everyone's in big giant puffy North Face jackets? It'd be great.
Yeah.
I'm having fun.
Well, fortunately, the Brits take law very seriously, which is why you get headlines like this one from Reuters. Wife of UK finance minister agrees to stop avoiding UK tax.
Okay, look, I've been following this because once again, I listen to a lot of British news. It's bad.
I bet.
They are chain smoking scandals for the last 2 years. It is insane. But it's really not that different from the Steve Mnuchin shit. When Trump first picked him, I was like, "Oh, you're like nakedly corrupt, and your wife is nakedly corrupt." Oh, okay, cool. You fly private jets to DC every weekend. It's really just that shit. She's just saving millions and millions of dollars in taxes because she's from India originally instead of being a resident, being naturalized in the UK. So she files her taxes in India, even though she makes like dozens of millions of dollars. So
And is like married to the minister of finance of the entire country.
Yeah, she's married to big money man. It's bad.
Not great, folks.
It's very kind of her though to agree to follow the law.
Fine, I guess if I have to, I'll pay extra millions of dollars in tax, even though it's voluntary.
Criminal agrees to start abiding law once scrutiny levied. Like, okay, cool.
Criminal agrees to pay restitution. Not really. You're kind of forced, whether you like to or not.
Yeah, so we would be remiss to have covered international fuck-ups without having hit once again on our good friends, the Chinese Communist Party. A new academic study, which I looked into just to make sure it seems to be legitimate, as reported on by Insider. 71 Chinese inmates on death row had their hearts or lungs removed during executions, but before being declared dead, new study says.
How is this a study? How did like a grad student and the professor like waltzed into the death camps in China?
Yeah, there is something a little odd about their methodology because they used published papers in the Chinese language as the basis for their data, and it was like Big N, but it was also there's obvious room for bias there because being written in Chinese language doesn't mean that they're written by reputable sources. It just means they're in Chinese. But still, it seems to be based on some actual set of data.
I mean, this is some Game of Thrones shit. Like, this is savage. But I mean, it doesn't really change the fact that like the people are gonna die anyway, and everyone has their own insane methods of execution. But like, I mean, this is fucked. It's not good.
But it does suggest a perverse incentive behind executing people to get their organs.
You're saying they're actually harvesting them?
Yes.
Oh, I thought they're just doing like
just for funsies.
Hannibal Lecter shit. I don't know.
No. There was long-standing suspicion that China was using prisoners as sources of organs for transplants into other people.
This is a plot point in one of the more recent Deus Ex games, and the Illuminati are behind it. Yeah, and the fucking train bombing was a plot point in the last Deus Ex game. Shit.
I don't remember if they're the most, but they're certainly up there. China's one of the top death sentence handers-outers of the world.
I would have thought it's us for sure.
Well, individual American states are bad, but we're not as bad as China now.
China is I think, by far still the top.
Yeah, so China continues the horrific policy of death sentences in the first place, which really should be most of the reporting on the question, as we've covered previously with like, are you comfortable in death? I mean, it's not really that important. But the fact that there's almost certainly a perverse incentive that would be like, we're sentencing people to death just because we need a lung is really fucked. Like it's, really. I mean, it's really hard to argue with that not being completely insane against medical ethics.
Do they not have a voluntary organ donation program? Do they not have people who die in car accidents? Like, What are you talking about?
Well, let's get real. Even in the United States, plenty of people die for lack of organ transplants because we don't have enough organs. So their like utilitarian calculation here seems to be, if they're going to die anyway, we may as well harvest their organs and repurpose them. So I understand the logic there. It just contravenes like all basic medical ethics.
Yeah,
and
what I'm
human
saying
rights.
is, one, definitely don't do it before you kill them. But two,
Yeah.
like, are they saying they're sentencing people to death who otherwise would not have been sentenced to death so that they can steal their organs?
They're not saying that, but I'm implying that because that's what a perverse incentive is. If a state becomes dependent on, say, money from taxing cigarettes or taxing gambling, and then there's a decline in those things, the state's imperiled because then they can't afford to pay for stuff. If the Chinese health system is reliant on lots of harvested organs from prisoners, then it creates a kind of a prisoner to organ pipeline,
Yeah,
right?
but if that's the case, 71 is way too few.
Well, this is just the ones they found. Like, this was not a comprehensive data set. Most of it's shrouded behind state secrecy.
Then how'd they even find this?
Because they studied something like, this was like 71 of like 9,000 or 71 of like 15,000 in a data set that they compiled from a bunch of reports that suggested like time of removal versus time of death for these people being compared.
Well, I mean, if you remove someone's heart, isn't the time of death going to be pretty close to the time of heart removal?
Correct. But if that's the time of death, as opposed to removed after the time of death, then you've got a killed by that rather than killed by something else.
Yeah, there's a lot of,
This is grotesque.
I'm just saying, if you've ever played like RimWorld, you know what this is, and it's horrifying.
yeah, this is like truly monstrous. Like this is if it weren't so distant from my life, it would be like truly disturbingly shocking. That's so horrifying.
You know,
Especially,
I've been finishing up my Skyrim kick lately. Are they just like crafting ebony Daedric gear? Like, what's happening? What's going on?
I mean, what's happening is that you have a dictatorship with no actual checks that's just doing whatever it wants.
But this is on par with like adrenochrome mole people, like pedophile clones. Like, this is on par with the other insane shit that's all like a grain of truth and like 99% total garbage bullshit fantasy. Like, why are you harvesting people's organs? Come on. Just it'd be easier
Yeah, it's
and
insane.
cheaper to just make synthetic organs and just evolve the tech there. We already have artificial heart and artificial lungs, kind of, to a degree. Like, you don't need to just kill people for it.
they don't flow with Han blood.
Yeah, it's just another reminder of like, we don't even need to persecute the Chinese because they're persecuting themselves really
Most
harshly.
people self-persecute the hardest. Most countries are the most vicious on their own people.
Yeah.
Go ask the like new Taliban government with not a single woman in it. Like, yeah, like, what do you expect? People are most savage towards their own kind.
Yeah, I mean, there's like a unique sensitivity to it, I think, which is why it's so easy for U.S. press and the U.S. government to, convince at least a segment of its population that we're so much better than a country like China.
Yeah.
Which is not.
We have never orgasted people's hearts.
It's because we certainly abuse our own population, but one, in more subtle and systemic ways than this example, and two, a lot of the harm we do is to other people, other countries.
We let our dead people's organs go to waste.
Well, yeah, I mean,
true Americans.
We kill 1,000 buffalo and take one with us, and that's just the way we do things. And I mean, by some historians' estimates, the United States perpetrated the greatest genocide in the history of the world when it wiped out the New World indigenous peoples. So, like, we are not necessarily in any better moral standing. But the point is, this is happening right now. Right? Like, this is a thing that can still be affected. So, I'd let it not be said, that we ignore or turn a blind eye to, China, or for whatever reason. As much as we've had various views on other situations involving them, their government is currently very disgusting, and is doing incredibly evil shit against every principle that they even supposedly stand for. Like, they are not communists. This is in no way, shape, or form like the working man's advantage. Sentencing all these people to death and ripping their fucking organs out.
We say it every episode we talk about China. We are not fans of China.
No.
We don't like their governing system. We don't like the people in charge. We don't like the evil policies they do.
Yeah.
But just because those are true doesn't mean you also we want to destroy them. No.
Yeah, and it should be mentioned, there's a very long history of left-wing opposition to dictatorial forms of communism. And there have been communist critics of that kind of communism for as long as there has been communism. So one of the things that's been one of the most successful erasures in our collective memory is that there has been a long left resistance to this kind of bullshit. You don't have to become a right wing crank to oppose Xi Jinping. Those are not the only options. So someone else's misbehavior should not make you a piece of shit. But just keep that in mind.
Do you think? See, I have a dueling ideas here on these organ harvesting. Do you think they're harvesting the organs of the particular political prisoners, or like Aiden's idea, they flow with Han blood? They don't want like the snake, like evil lefty blood in their new people, so they don't harvest their organs.
I'm pretty sure they're just harvesting whoever they want. I don't think it's even that nuanced. I mean, some of these people are probably just like serial killers, but the point is, this is not the way to handle that in any way. All right, well, let's talk about a different espionage situation as we wind out our episode with a pair of Wild and Out articles. From Wired.com, scientists spy on Mount Etna with fiber optic cables.
What does any of that mean?
They're looking up Mount Etna's skirt.
I'm so lost. What's Mount Etna? Isn't Etna like an insurance company? What's happening?
It's spelled different, but that's very funny.
Didn't I have to like sign up for Etna? What's happening?
There's an A in front of it.
Where am I? I want to go home. So what's Mount Etna?
It's a mountain.
How you spy on a mountain? What are they talking about?
It's Italian, I think.
No idea.
Let me look it up real quick. Yeah, it's in Sicily.
You can't spy on non-sentient objects. What are you talking
I would just
about?
like to point out we are still waiting for fiber optic internet reliably in the US.
We actually have fiber optic.
It's only in some parts though. It's like inconsistently applied. The fact that we're using it to spy up a fucking mountain skirts is, just saying priorities.
Maybe this isn't clear for people. I'd like to define what spy means. Spy means observe something that is also capable of observing.
Generally, yes.
They have to be able to observe you too, and you're sneaking in the observing. You can't spy on a mountain. The mountain can't spy back, and if it does, we got a bigger problem.
Mount Etna executes defector spy for
Mount Etna pulls the heart out of a scientist. So
I will post the subhead just so this is not completely.
Why aren't they saying like here's what scientists are trying to learn about Mount Etna?
Researchers can detect volcanic activity by watching how light moves through the same kinds of fibers that bring you internet.
Cool. Why did they start with that?
I have no idea.
Going insane by the headline.
Someone and this publication is very horny.
Yeah. The first one's just like it's some sort of spy movie, like it's some sort of action adventure. And they're just struggling so hard to get to the news day. They're like, let's just say some shit.
No one's gonna read this anyways.
Also have the novelty backwards. Fiber optic cables were not originally used for internet. They were originally used for sending light through stuff. We figured out we could also send electricity through it and like send internet through it. But like they're originally used to detect light. So, oh God.
Yeah, but most people know internet doodads these days.
Losing my grasp on reality.
I'm just saying, go to Pornhub and look up Mount Etna under upskirt and see what you get. Because that's what this makes me assume.
Where are you getting this upskirt part? There's nothing in there that says skirt or upskirt.
Yeah, they could be looking down at his shirt.
Well, isn't Etna also a woman's name?
Big busty Etna.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, the whole framing of this made me think like Ted Cruz was going to look this up.
Everyone's horned up for Hurricane Sally. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Hurricane
Volcano I'd like to fuck.
Oh, that'd be great if instead of shooting hurricanes, right wingers pivot to fucking hurricanes.
Yeah, exactly. It becomes like the self-sacrifice thing. Yeah.
Have sex with a god.
Make us whole.
All right, I'm going to lead us out with our sort of animal story from the well-known ClarionLedger.com.
Yes, my favorite.
Where have you been browsing?
Quote, he is a monster. Mississippi man smashes state record with 131-pound blue catfish. Subhead, we had to untie the boat and float down the river. I couldn't move him. I'd pull on him and take in a foot of line, and he'd pull and take 10 feet. I just sat there like I was hung up.
Did they kill this giant catfish?
I think I'm gonna post the image.
Catfish art.
This is like a big ass Pokemon. Final form. Jesus Christ, that's a big fish.
It's as big as the guy. Like the old man in the sea took place in Mississippi.
Is he wearing camo on the water?
Yeah, you got to trick their
Yeah.
eyes. Even like can like barely see color.
That's so funny.
But this is some sort of prehistoric catfish has been caught and discovered.
Cold black eyes.
Oh my
I
god,
wrangled him.
there are 2 pictures of this guy in the article on Yahoo, and he looks so miserable. This is all I have.
Yeah, because he's a dog who caught the car and he doesn't know what to do now.
He just waged war on this catfish.
This is like the pinnacle of his life achievement. So now he doesn't know what's going to happen.
He flew too close to the sun.
Yeah, 131-pound catfish is a pretty old catfish. It takes a long time to get that big. So this is 2 old men in the sea.
Do people eat catfish?
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
I've never heard of like catfish meat.
It's especially common in southern cooking. There's a lot of like Cajun catfish stuff.
Well, hopefully they can feed a lot of people with this, and not just like hanging on a wall.
Oh, I'm sure they're going to eat it. I'm sure that's happening.
What's that singing bass? They got to make like an
Big
Uber
mouth
version.
bass,
Yeah.
This thing just to like give your grandma a heart attack is
Big mouth catfish.
You know, prehistoric 4-foot, 5-foot long catfish starts popping off the wall.
Yeah.
It's like it's night at the museum.
Right, and they get Adam Savage from MythBusters to like rig up a whole animatronic like robotic skeleton to go inside when they get all the meat out, and then you can hang it on the wall and it'll move around and sing. That'd be sick.
This looks like, yeah. One of the recommended articles on the bottom of this page is New Orleans mamas normalized breastfeeding during Mardi Gras season. this is a wild section.
Wait, what the fuck is that?
I don't know.
Is this the same website?
I don't know if I went to it. I just googled the headline, but it has a tit in the thumbnail, so it caught my eye.
Alex, I don't mean to one up you, but I just googled giant catfish, and apparently another Mississippi resident got a 736-pound catfish.
What?
Well, I don't even think that's possible. That's some horse shit. That's like a Photoshop.
That 100% looks like
Look, the guy on the left doesn't even look like he's standing there.
Yeah, I know. There's a lot of big catfish.
That is a very, very high zoom on a normal catfish.
Yeah, maybe. But there's big pipes in the background. I don't know.
It's like a fucking walrus. All right, whatever. We'll have to look into this. We'll get our fact checkers on the catfish situation.
Yeah, forget everything else. Next deep dive.
Before we go, I just want to do a brief shout out to a real one. Gilbert Gottfried has just died.
Yeah.
I always liked him. I thought he was very funny. One of the few people I think actually got canceled for comments he made about a hurricane, which lost him.
But
his
he
Outback
had.
thing.
But see, that's what's so funny. There is definitely a cancel culture story to be made about that. He got canceled exclusively by the corporations,
right?
And he had a good heart about it.
For making
it's fine
again, for making a joke that was relatively tame and was part of his job as being a comedian. So like, just he was a good dude. Made a lot of people laugh. Kept people's spirits up. Sorry to see him go.
Maybe we can attach the great clip where he talks about that event. I'll see if I can find it.
There's 9/11 joke.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, one of the few people who could make everyone laugh after 9/11 is famously recorded in the Aristocrats movie. Anyway, he and the catfish can party it up with St. Peter, according to certain people. We'll see which one gets in.
And Clarence Thomas, confirmation pending.
Oh yeah, we close?
No, he's definitely not up there with Gilbert Gottfried.
Yeah, Gilbert Gottfried wouldn't be ashamed to go to the same place as him.
All right, this one's for Gilbert Gottfried. Catch you guys next time.
Pour one out on your catfish for Gilbert.
See ya.
Hey, thanks for listening to the show. If you enjoy what we do here at the Non-Essential Workers Podcast and you want to support us, please check us out at patreon.com/non-essential-workers-podcast or by clicking the link below.
For $5, you get access to the Patreon feed and twice That's right, twice as many total episodes.
How many more?
I'll say it one more time for the back. Twice. Anyways, thanks, and see you next time.